It's difficult to fall asleep, but I often do my best thinking. And sometimes I jump right out of bed and write stuff down. Other times I wake up with clarity. And so I was asked a question recently. And the question was, look, Andy, you've been talking about buying gold and silver now on YouTube for a few years. And the question that was asked of me is, at what point or what level do I sell my gold and silver? And I thought, this is an excellent question. It's an important one, too. And, people out there who know me from coming into their living room multiple times per week, this may not surprise them, my answer, but I'd like to try and quantify the answer, qualify it as well, because I think it's important. I think now, I don't know that this one particular lady, because I related it, to this order. I thought about her motivation. When would she sell it? Why would she sell it? And my feeling is that, and I think she feels this way, don't know it, but I would guess that she never will sell her gold and silver, or if she owned platinum for that matter, ever. I think that she views these metals as an integral part of her estate and her net wealth. And I don't think she cares what the current price is, because I think she understands that gold represents unencumbered wealth. I'm going to give you an example from her standpoint. Let's call her a rich woman, because she is. Let's also remember that she didn't get rich by being stupid. This woman holds, let's call it 12,000 ounces of gold for the sake of math. And today her holdings are worth $23 million. She's rich, no question about it. But let's pretend for a moment that gold declines to $700 an ounce. Now, before I finish this, I want to say I'm giving the answer to this question from the perspective of a wealthy individual, a very wealthy individual who I think there are a lot of wealthy individuals out there who will have an awakening at some point. And that awakening will come as markets start to find equilibrium with interest rates, or if the dollar, as we've talked about, starts to be globally forsaken, as it appears that it is. And the response to that, the market's response to that, I think will be negative to traditional forms of investment. And at some point, people will wake up. So in any case, this is the way that I think a wealthy person, a rich person, would look at this. So today her holdings are worth $23 million in gold. And I'm just going to forget about silver for a moment. We're just going to talk about gold because it's easier for the sake of math. So let's pretend that gold declines to a price of $700. And that's a pretty big drop, right? During, let's call it a crushing world deflation where bankruptcies rule and the price of everything that has debt against it, think counterparty risk, collapses. At this point, this rich woman is holding $8.4 million worth of gold. Now, this is just based on spot. The lady is still very rich. Next comes runaway inflation after this deflationary collapse, as the Fed comes in and tries to save the day with a wide open, spigot of money and reaccommodating and pushing interest rates down again, right out of their playbook. And gold runs up to $2,500 an ounce, and she now owns $30 million worth of gold, is almost embarrassingly rich, at least in terms of her neighbors, let's say. The point I want to get across is that in holding 12,000 ounces of gold, this lady will always be rich, no matter what. And let's call it shades of rich, depending upon the economy. So I would argue that this rich woman isn't trying to beat or out-trade the gold market. She holds gold and silver as eternal wealth, and an eternal store of wealth. And I think that's through good times and bad. Now, the only argument I thought about that would invalidate this argument is that gold actually becomes a worthless, barbaric relic that we've often heard people say. It's a barbaric relic. Never understood that. And suddenly nobody wants gold. And I thought about that for a minute, and I came back saying, well, this isn't a valid argument, because 5,000 years of history say that that argument is wrong. And I think, gold is etched into the DNA of mankind. There's never been an instance since pre-biblical times where men, and in this case, women, didn't lust after gold. And so in laying in bed before I fell asleep last night, it just dawned on me that you can learn from the wealthy or from this rich woman. And never mind today's price of gold, just mind how many ounces you own. And I think that's really the key takeaway here is that when you own precious metals, I often talk about it as being wealth. It's not to get wealthy. And I tried to find a way to, using mathematics, show you this. Now, it's a much bigger equation when you're talking 12,000 ounces of gold, but I want people to understand it from a person of wealth, the way that they would be looking at this. And there are very wealthy people out there where $20 million isn't that big of a deal. I mean, there are basketball players out there making $40 million a year in the NBA. So that there will be a percentage of people who make this transition and wake up to what gold and silver are.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
And so I think that these people will hold on to their metal forever, as long as they possibly can, and pass it on to their children in an immutable fashion. And I think that's really the takeaway here, is that once there is this awakening, and I think we're getting closer to it, and this lady is validation of that. I truly do believe that, and this is, again, goes to my point of talking about supply being a real issue moving down the road, because it's sticky. People don't want to relinquish their gold and silver. They want to pass it on to their family. They're wealthy in other ways, the wealthy. And this is just a way to preserve a portion of their wealth. One other thing I wanted to mention, we've been talking about the U.S. Mint curtailing production of gold the second half of the year. I looked at it. They only made 30,000 gold eagles in the month of July. I mean, if you go back a few months, they're making over 100,000. So I was also told that, the Mint believes they have enough blanks to last till November, but they have curtailed production. So they used to do allocations every week. Now they're doing every other week, and those allocations have greatly been reduced. So you can see this trend, at least from the standpoint of the U.S. Mint. I just wanted to pick up, this thread that we've talked about for quite some time about dwindling supply. Ultimately, the U.S. Mint is not making it any easier to accumulate metal. And in looking at their production numbers, 30,000 gold eagles, I mean, that's woefully under production from what is being demanded here globally. And you can see that in premiums that have gone up $100 since I brought this up on your show, saying my next prediction is that gold eagles take off like this too. My only question is, do they become like the silver eagles? I'm not sure, but you put it all together and you have a growing awakening of very large money looking to shelter their wealth. And, I went out to dinner the other night here in Florida with one of the gentlemen who helped me fill this order. And he said to me, Andy, you couldn't do this order right now to save your life. Not even a chance. There is no way that you could do this order right now without going deep into 2023, like first quarter deep. So I want people to think about that for a second. I've been saying for a very long time and got a lot of heat for it on a lot of channels. He's talking his book, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not. If I couldn't do another $50 million order right now, what does that say? I did it in 2 days before the July 4th weekend. I know everybody. If I couldn't get it done right now, what does that say to the fragility of this entire system? You and I were talking just the other day about an order not even close to this size, but significant enough to where, we were wondering, could it disrupt our inventory here at Miles Franklin? The answer is yes. And so the point I'm getting at, then again, and I don't know why I decided to also dovetail what we were talking about here to this, because they're connected. And I think that people need to understand that it won't take but a few very wealthy men and women like this who look to preserve, who look to hold money and preserve their wealth, no matter what happens to the gold and silver price, because it is wealth. You can see that it's going to be more and more challenging for Johnny come latelys or Jenny comes lately. And this is one of these deals where I wish I could find a way to convey to people that, there's more to the equation than just the price. And price is a tool of misdirection. And this is one of the reasons why I think part of my success in accumulating metal goes all the way back to the lesson that my dad taught me day one when I started at Miles Franklin in 1989, 1990. Buy something every 2 weeks. Now, I know everyone can't do that, but the idea of cost averaging, I've done it every 2 weeks for 23 years or 33 years. Everyone can't do that. But the idea of cost averaging, getting in, dipping your toe in, stop waiting for that one big drop in gold, stop waiting to do everything at once, just buy when you can, pay yourself first, because we're going to wake up at one point and the big money is going to be terrified. I really do believe that. There will come a moment where the big money becomes terrified of being in what is considered conventional investing. And if a very small percentage of those people come out looking for a refuge in metals, it won't take but just a small push in this very fragile supply chain infrastructure to render everything unobtainium. And I do think that that's on the table. So anyways, it was just a little thought experiment. And I walked away from it all saying she won't ever sell it. I believe she will hold it and pass it on to her family because she realizes it is wealth. And she'll be rich no matter what gold and silver do. If you own enough, you'll always be wealthy in any eventuality. And I think that's really the point I'd like to get across. Not everyone can buy 50 million, but look, if you have a couple $100,000 worth, maybe you think you're rich. Maybe you are for your standard of living. The point of it is that when you reach that level, maybe it's a few $1,000s worth for you, whatever it is, when you reach that level, it's not about the value. It's about the number of ounces, and it's about what it represents. And there is no better way, if you don't need it, to pass it on to your family. So I hope that helps some people who are wondering, should I sell it? When should I sell it? When will she sell it? What's her exit strategy? And I actually think her exit strategy is to, when she exits, to leave it for her family or for a charity or whoever is important to her, passing on immutable wealth that I think is, lasted the test of time. So.
Small ebook, big impact, The Wealth Tree. The only 4 ways that will make you financially free forever. Download it here for free.